Good evening. Welcome back to We Are the South Stands. Please make sure you're smashing the like button on entry. Hope everyone's had a good day, enjoyed the weather, or are we doing what we usually do as English, and as soon as it's hot, we moan about how hot it is? Because I know I have. I'm not going to lie. I have all day long. Anyway, tonight's show, we have 3 guests, 3 fellow Blues with us, just to tell us a little bit more about the third protest, right? Is it the third? I think it's the third protest.
Yeah. Second, like in stadium one, but
in stadium. That's right. Yeah.
But
the third protest, and of course the open letter to Pep Guardiola. Just to explain to all of the City fans, local and global, what's going on, the reason for it, and of course how you can support it. Going to go over to introducing them first of all. To my left, take it away, Lucas.
Hi, I'm Lucas Gregory. I'm one of the people behind 1894, who we're primarily like an atmosphere group at City. We want to try and improve the atmosphere at the Etihad Stadium, and as part of that, we want to ensure that fans can get in and buy tickets affordably and contribute to it.
Spot on. And then below that, Nick.
So hi, my name's Nick Clark. I'm one of the co-founders of a Manchester City Fans Food Bank support at MCFC Food Bank on our socials. We collect donations of food and toiletries outside of City men's and women's weekend home games to support Manchester Central Food Bank, the biggest food bank in the region. We obviously want to support our communities at all times, and we see City fans as one of our communities, and that's why we've lent our voice to this campaign as well.
Absolutely. And by the way, great work. Keep it up, what you're doing over there at the food bank. And then finally, and but by no means least, below me.
Hi there, my name's Mark Mahatsod, and I used to be on City Matters, the fan advisory board for City, and so I've got a bit of experience working with the club and sometimes not working with the club on issues. And I now run a private Facebook group for match-going fans called Solid Citizens, and we're starting to flex our muscles and raise our voice in terms of campaigns alongside my colleagues here on issues of importance to match-going fans.
Perfect. Right, so for anyone that doesn't know, and I almost forgot, we played tomorrow night, Friday night, not Saturday. Have we got any Saturday games? Well, we've got Southampton away, but then after that,
Cup final.
Final. So we haven't got any home Saturday games left, have we?
No home weekend games left.
No.
Oh yeah.
No, we haven't.
It's crazy.
Yeah, mad. And don't get me started on the fact that the FA Cup is before the season ends, because that's absolute mayhem. But anyway, it might mean that on De Bruyne's last game we get to see a trophy, right? Maybe. Because if we win it, he'll be able to walk out with it, right? Which would be fitting. Anyway, we are playing tomorrow. Wolves at home. Lucas, do you want to let us know what the plan is, firstly?
Yeah, so before the game, we'll be outside the stadium, speaking to people outside the Colin Bell stand. But the main point of protest tomorrow is we're calling on fans to stay on the concourse for 6 minutes at the start of the match. It's similar to the 9-minute protest that we had against Leicester a couple of games ago that was incredibly effective. It was, shown all around the world and went viral across various different news outlets and so on. We don't feel that the sort of concessions that the club have come out with since then have kind of pacified the fan base. We did a lot of surveying to our members, and how they felt about the club froze season ticket prices, and they also froze match day prices. And while we think that freezing the season ticket prices is just about acceptable, a lot of people are still unhappy with it, but they can see that there's a bit of a win there. The match day tickets especially are just outrageous. £71 for the game against Leicester. Oh, sorry, was it Aston Villa?
Villa on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, and I think the game tomorrow is like £61 a ticket again, which you're talking, that's a few years ago. I was at the Arsenal game away where we held up the £62 where does it stop banner,
It clearly didn't. Clearly
yeah,
didn't.
It didn't stop, and that was that's London prices and everything, which seem to have they seem to be the new norm up here in Manchester now. But while the ticket prices are shooting up, I don't think that people's wages and other things are at the same pace. So yeah, the point behind this continued process tomorrow is we still think that there's further to go, and we want the fans to send a message to the club to kind of say, look, we want to be here, we want to support you, but if you continue down this path, this is what the stadium's going to look like.
Right. And I was just just to butt in there, but I think there's something there's really, you mentioned the Villa game, and I'm interested to see, I would be interested to know if the club noticed what, I wasn't there for that game. I live down in Bedford, so kind of weekdays when I often have my daughter, getting up there for home games can be difficult. But something I noticed on the TV, and I hope the owners noticed, the board noticed, was it's a weekday, right? Now, for me, my journey up to Manchester has changed over the years. It's generally always been a train, but the number of blues on the train has changed. It's gone from maybe, 10 years ago? I mean, go back longer than 10 years ago, and it was even less. But 10 years ago, not many faces. The last 3 years, the number of people travelling up on trains to Manchester is completely different. It's no longer that I recognise faces. There's every week there'll just be different blues travelling up, and there'll be some will be what I would refer to as global City fans. Some will be English City fans that live down south. Some will be global City fans. And some will be that I just happen to talk to, and I don't know they're a City fan, but I find out they're going to the City game as a tourist, right? Not as a City fan, they're going as a tourist. Now, that can happen on weekends, right? And also in Manchester on weekends, you do have tourists in Manchester on weekends. But I think what we saw in that Aston Villa game is you don't have tourists in Manchester on a Tuesday night, right?
Yeah.
So these prices that are tourist prices, shall we say, right? You can't do that on a weekday. And this is, to me, it was very obvious looking at that game, the amount of pockets. And you didn't do a protest at the Villa game, did you?
So we did.
It's outside.
A demo outside, exactly. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, what you're saying is a completely fair and valid point. I mean, I would stress that in terms of 1894, we have a global membership ourselves, and we're really keen to. We don't want to be seen as just like a Mancunian organisation, because City's way bigger than that now.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're a huge club with loads of fans all over the place, and that's brilliant. There's nobody here that would say we don't want fans from all over the place coming and contributing. And part of the reason why we're fighting for what we're fighting for is so that everybody isn't priced out. It doesn't matter whether they're locals or if it's the first game or if they've travelled in from Japan to watch the game or something. As long as they're City fans, we want a fair deal for everyone. But the point that you make is valid, where because of the ticket policies at the moment. So firstly, the increase in prices, but secondly, the way that the club sells tickets. So through like the 9 reseller partners that they have. What we think is happening is a lot of the sort of hardcore are just priced out. There's not that many people I know that can afford £71 per ticket, especially if they're taking the kids or they're going with the mates or they've got trains to pay for. And because of these reseller agencies, it's so easy for anybody to just buy a ticket, whether they might be a genuine City fan that doesn't understand how to buy tickets through the club. But we find that it's more appealing to these types that are non-City fans, we'd call them. We try and stay away from the term like tourist City fans, because it can have a bit of a negative connotation.
Lucas, that's what I said, and this is something that I've spoke on the channel about a few times. That when I use the term tourist, I mean a tourist, right? I don't mean, and that's why I see it as three. And I always use the example that my best mate was in New York last week. He doesn't support a basketball team. He went to the basketball, right? So I always kind of, because I'm with you, that sometimes when you say tourist, that City fans that aren't from England presume you're talking about them.
Yeah.
That's why I say, no, you're a global City fan. We love you, right? We love you. And do you know what? You're spot on. The amount of people that Steve and I message us about tickets to games saying, oh, how do I get a ticket? And I say, well, the first step is becoming a member, right?
Yeah.
Become a member, right? Once you become a member, you'll then be able to go on the website and get a ticket. But the other thing you said, and this is where it's really important that the global City fan base get behind this, is that the amount of people I spoke to on trains that have come from abroad aren't a member of a supporters club because, again, they're not aware of the supporters club thing.
Yeah.
And they've bought tickets off of resellers and they've paid astronomical prices, right?
Yeah.
Like 300-400. I remember speaking to one, and I'm pretty certain for the Arsenal game at the start of this season, the one where Rodri got injured, pretty certain he told me he paid 600 quid.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. Become a member, right? Become a member of the club and do it the proper way, because these resellers. I think the other thing worth saying is the 6 minutes. Do you want to explain why 6 minutes as well? Nick, over to you, on that one.
Yeah, so six. The whole point of 6 minutes, like I say, it's a symbolic thing more than anything. It was like Lucas said with the Leicester. It was 9 minutes because we now had 9 official third-party ticket resale agencies. It's crazy for a club to have more than a couple, and we've got 9, which links into everything you're saying there about, those kind of tourists that are coming paying 200, 300, 400 plus pounds. This 6 minutes is about, it's been 6 years since the club started getting rid of season ticket numbers. We had 40,000 plus season ticket holders in 2019, and off the club's own numbers, we are now at 35,900 in an expanding stadium. There's no reason to be reducing the numbers. Everyone used to think that, if I give up my season ticket, it's all right. It goes back in the pot. It's fine. Somebody else can get it. That's not been happening for a number of years now. The club's released a couple. I think 2021, there was some COVID deferrals, so they released a few. Then 2022, 2023, the old silver season ticket thing, they got offered. They offered people to go up to gold than normal. And then last year they introduced Flexi Gold, which is the notorious Flexi Gold, which is go as far as to say it's probably the way that football's heading in getting rid of season tickets in general. Like it's an archaic, outdated thing instead of actually being something that is a core feature of football support in this country, and across the world. So 6 minutes to represent that, but like Luke said, there's so many other things really within it. It's about the extortionate match day prices. It's about that if you're on Flexi Gold, that's your only opportunity at the moment to get a season ticket. But even if the club does bring in new season tickets, they've just announced a whole raft of new policies that means that we've got some of the most restrictive ticketing policies in the country. So there's this new one that they announced last week or the week before, where it's a 10-game minimum personal attendance policy. Now, that might not sound too bad, but it doesn't include transfers. It doesn't include sending it to the ticket exchange. If you work shifts, if you're a carer, if you fall pregnant, which happened to one of my mates, the club she asked if she could defer a ticket. A baby was born premature and she was in hospital for 8 weeks. The club said, use it or lose it. If you've a disabled supporter, long-term health conditions, if you're elderly, therefore more likely to have health conditions, there's so many different ways in which this policy can affect the fans going forward, and if it affects that many people, it's just a bad policy. The club say that they're going to put on more staff or they're going to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. My mate was a case last year with the pregnancy, and they didn't care. So to be honest,
is that one of the issues as well? It's the way the club are dealing with things as well, that it's
100%.
It's not personal. They're not getting back to people, and it's the communication with the club, the communication between the club and the fans, which is something that I guess when the Sheikh took over the club, we are the citizens, and he prided himself on keeping it. We will stay connected to the community. We will stay connected to the fans, and that is just slowly disappearing. Well, quickly disappearing.
All's not lost in that regard, because there's some good things going on from time to time, but they're going down what we consider to be a slippery slope. And I don't think they understand the implications. Do not always assume that there are a lot of smart people at City. Some smart people and some not so smart. Yeah. And they don't realise the implication quite often. So when they started not issuing new season tickets 6 years ago, which is kind of what the protest is about tomorrow, they didn't realise, because they didn't think, that means much lower numbers of children with season tickets. So as those kids become 16, then we lose them as a child season ticket. There's no new ones, so there's no coming through. And in about 2 years, it almost halved the number of children with a season ticket. It'll be even worse now, because that's an old figure that I read at a City Matters meeting. So the number of children with season tickets has plummeted. So what that means is the traditional way of a mum or dad taking the son or daughter to the game and then getting them into that habit of never missing a City game just goes. Well, so we're losing the next generation by the policies the club are following.
I've got so my brother-in-law, my sister who lives up there, she had the great pleasure of marrying a Scouser, a Red, and I remember at their wedding. All of his family are Reds. And at the wedding, they were telling me, bar one, his nephew, one of them, who's Everton. And the reason he is Everton is the exact reason. Couldn't get a ticket, and his mates were all Everton, so he started going Everton. Yeah. And he said, I'm with my mates, and it just... And look, that is where we are. That we're at a point at the moment where our fan base should be growing. But it could go the other way. It could very easily, and worryingly, locally, it will go the other way.
This is what's crazy to me. It's something that I've been saying now for the past couple of weeks. Is like we are on an unprecedented run of success in English football. Yeah. It's probably never going to happen again that a single team wins 4 league titles on the trot. Like you said, Manchester, especially Greater Manchester, the northwest, the country should be full of young City fans.
Yeah,
but more importantly, especially locally, young City fans who can get into the game, get into the stadium, get those traditions, get that. Because I'll be honest, when I was younger, there were times where I wasn't that interested in football, and you can't blame me with Stuart Pearce. You know what I mean? But it was my it was my dad having me and my brother on a season ticket, and we were going every week and seeing my family and seeing my friends. And now, you know, the football isn't even the biggest thing for me. It's seeing my friends and seeing my family in my community. Yeah. That's what keeps me going. That's what makes me go.
It was never about the football. It was never about the football. It was about everything. I'm older, so believe me, for most of my football watching career, watching that football team, it was never about the football. People used to say to me, "Why do you still watch them?" And I go, "It's got nothing to do with winning. It's got nothing to do with football." And we can't lose that feeling of wanting to support City, regardless, because we've got a kind of post-Pep era not far around the corner. Who knows what that's going to look like? And they'll want us there if the success dries up. I guarantee that. So they should. Most of this is about balance, I think.
Yeah.
We want the new fans to come in. We want to grow the club. You're talking about growing the fan base. Who wouldn't want that? You know, of course we would. But you've got to have the balance of taking the people who go week in, week out with you, and their children and their children's children. That's what we've got to protect.
Absolutely. I am actually I'm just sending myself something. I'm gonna play it shortly. I do a show usually every Thursdays with a big City fan based over in America who is very big on Twitter. He's called The Sheikh. And by the way, congratulations to The Sheikh. Our show today didn't happen because his other half has just gone into hospital and had a little boy. But I'm gonna play it from you because it's a view from a global fan, and I'll be interested to get your take on it, but just got one super chat to read really quickly from a professional idiot who's saying it's out of touch from Manchester City. They forgot football was and still is a working class sport. The working class spends their limited money to support. Time is not always available either. And that, I think that is spot on. Just quickly on that, just to get and appreciate the super chat as always, professional idiot. Just to get why are the club? Do you think ultimately when the club is saying, right, if you don't attend 10 games or more, we're going to take it off of you? Do you think there's an element of that is because we want the ground to be busier? Or do you think it's a case of, no, we just want to take as many season tickets back as possible so that we can sell the ticket for more?
I think a few of us might have different opinions here on this, but if you want to say yours, Lucas.
Well, what I was going to say was one of my sort of major concerns with a lot of the communication that comes from City is there is just a lack of backup communication. So, for argument's sake, if they came out and said, if you don't attend 10 games personally, we're going to keep the season card, but we're going to ring fence it, and that's going to go to another Citizens member who's attended so many games, and we're going to make sure they get it. I still think there'd be people upset, but you could have the counter argument and say, well, they're trying to get other people a season card, but what they do is they just say attend 10 games and we're taking it off you, and they leave the blanks for us to fill in. And unfortunately, recent history suggests that they're probably not going to offer that season card to somebody else. Instead, they'd be happy for it to actually sit empty for 9 of the games, because they know they're going to sell it for
one game. They'll sell it for one game, and
£100 for the other game.
That's what I was thinking. This was something that the Sheikh said that was quite interesting, and he kind of said that initially when he saw the price, 71 quid, he goes, well, if I was to go to an American football game or a basketball game, I'd pay a lot more than £71. He said, but then I sat and thought about it and thought, hold on, I live in New York. I don't live in Manchester, right? Yeah. And it's a completely different sport. Everything about it is completely different. The people that go to basketball games compared to the people that go to football, naturally, working class game is completely different. And then he went on to speak about kind of, like you said, Lucas, about how we are in a beautiful position as City fans, somewhere that, me and Mark at very least, when we were at Main Road, I never dreamed of winning an FA Cup as a kid. Right? The most I celebrated at Main Road, I always say this was Blackburn Rovers winning the league. Right? That was my celebration. Yeah, I will always remember that day. We lost to QPR 3-2, by the way, which is very bizarre how we won the league against QPR 3-2. But anyway, he said we're in this unique place where we are a massive club now. And then he said, and what I'm told by so many people is that the actual match day revenue on tickets is not how the club earns money, right? Yeah. It really isn't that significant. He said, so are we not in a position to be groundbreaking and to show our loyalty to the fans and drop prices 100%. And to actually not go the way everyone else is going? We are, we're the top team in the country. I know we haven't won the league this season, but that's the way we're going. Why don't we break the norm? And actually, I thought, it's if it isn't that important, and I think, Mark, you just said this, and this is probably relevant. This is not a Sheikh decision. This is not a Khaldoon decision. This is potentially not even a Serrano decision. This is the person that is in charge of ticketing. This is predominantly a him thing. And that maybe Serrano a little bit, to be fair, but certainly the Sheikh and Khaldoon, they want the stadium full, right? And and I think this is the important of why doing it on the TV with a 6-minute thing is then they see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Sorry, go on. Do you want to talk about the protest, guys? Go on.
Yeah. Well, I'd jump in and say that I do think that it does come from Soriano down, in my opinion.
Soriano, maybe, yeah.
That the people who actually make the decisions on the tickets are probably put under pressure to drive. They call it match day revenue. So I know that they benchmark against the other big 6 clubs, which is mental anyway, because 3 of them are in London and the other 2 are United and Liverpool, with an entirely different type of fan base. But I think that it comes from Soriano down, when he was like in the past he's talked about
Disney,
wanting it to be like Disney, and there's various things like that which they're just they are complete opposites to what British football has always been. And kind of going back to the point about the American sports, and those events are more of a spectacle, and the people going there to be entertained. They're not part of the club in the same way that a British football fan is. Yeah. I just think historically, football fans have always been there to support the team and to help them.
No matter what.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a no matter what price, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's if you're going to a basketball game, but you're in a super comfy seat, great views, you sat there being entertained, you've got someone walking down the aisle selling you a beer, you don't get treated like a criminal the second you walk into the stadium, and it's a completely different experience for them. For us as football fans, we want to be able to go and support the team. However, like weird that is, it's just a cultural thing that's entirely different. And I think even the likes of Soriano, who's been around football for a lot of his life, they still don't see it from like a British fan perspective. It's an entirely different culture. There are other people in the club who've like worked in banks and things, and they presume that football fans will act like customers of these other industries. Earlier in the season, there were, the issues with things like the disabled parking.
That's the big one.
Worked on, and unfortunately, the club went back to it. And these various things where they kind of treat it like football fans just get treated so negatively from every different angle. Whether it's like policing from the club themselves. I believe that a certain executive who left to United recently quoted that he was happy playing during COVID because it meant that their club didn't have to deal with fans coming to the game. And so it's an interesting. It's
out of touch.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Someone needs to tell him about, especially when, if you're talking about, the loyal fans that most of us are still here, that were there when the club needed us back at Main Road, right? To then say you don't want them, it's like, do you know what? There might not have been a football club for you to buy.
Yeah, the club would be dead without the people who were going in the late 80s and early 90s. The club would be dead. And a lot of them are still involved and still going, which is fantastic. We are, we have taken the fan base with us and grown it, but you can tell they got the pricing wrong, because Leicester City is a good case in point, actually, because Leicester returned a lot of their tickets. So the Leicester tickets
did they do that for us as well?
Yeah, well, they returned a load of tickets, and City Matters negotiated with the club that if the opposition returned their tickets, they would get sold to City fans for the same price that the away fans. So they were sold for 30 quid each. So in the ground, we had 30 quid tickets above Leicester, and then was it 60, 61 or something around the ground. The 30 quid tickets sold out in no time at all. But that wasn't the club pitching it right to get people in. That was just a result of a negotiation we did probably 2 years ago, just to get them not to ransack people's bank accounts because they've had ticket returns. And the same will happen with probably, I don't think Wolves have returned them, but you get my drift. Basically, when the pricing is low, it's full. Look at the Plymouth game in the FA Cup. Why would people come to the Plymouth game? Because it was cheap. It is do the math.
And do you know what? And this is the thing. This is where, when I asked about, do you think they want the season tickets back to make the ground full? Because they don't want people ultimately. And this is where I'm talking about the people that can't make it to the ground. Because if that was it, right? If they were saying, look, if you're not going to come to games, we want the season ticket back because we want the ground to be full. Still think personally it's wrong, because a season ticket with a lot of people is just it becomes a cost that you have every single year, right? Because it's in your family, right? That's it. You've had the season ticket for X number of years, and it will forever be in the family. If someone passes away in the family, the aim is that moves on to the grandchild, etc. But if it's, and that's the thing, you could understand it if they want to create a better atmosphere at the ground. But
what they're doing,
it's not that, it's money.
Well, no, and you know what? I still massively don't agree with this 10-game policy, because, like I said, it affects all the things I said before, possibly in breach of equalities law as well, which is atrocious. But what they've done at the same time is also limit the amount of times you can transfer to a City fan without a paid membership to 3 times. It was unlimited last season. This season, unlimited. So what's the problem with us not being able to make a match and transferring it to a friend or family for face value or less, and making sure that a proper City fan is in the seat? What the problem at the moment, with one of the many problems, is that City fans don't trust our own ticket exchange, because we've had proof you know, there's a big spreadsheet at the moment where there's instances of this being put down, where fans have sold, or somebody sits next to someone at the stadium who sold their ticket on the ticket exchange. It has then been filled by either an away fan, a neutral supporting like a player on the away team or something like that. And they say that they've then bought it from livefootballtickets.com or Vivid Tickets. And it's like, how can we trust our own? How can we trust our own club's ticket exchange? It's a joke.
You know, with that as well, that I mean, I think that's one of the things that is very important as well. It's the safety side of things, right? That rules got put in place kind of, what was it, late 80s, early 90s, about you had to be a member so that anyone that is in a ticket that is in the stadium, they know who you are, right? They know you're a City fan. They know where you live. They know everything about you. And to be fair, if you're buying it, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, but if you're buying a ticket off of City's website, you have to be you have to be a member.
Yeah, pretty much. They don't sell it to non-members these days. You have to have a membership.
Right? And that's part of a rule that was brought in many, many years ago. Well, not anymore. You can just go on a different website and buy it.
Yeah.
So
that's absolutely right.
It's might as well remove sectioning in and just let anyone a free for all. So.
If somebody got caught doing it outside the Tesla garage before a match, they get arrested.
Correct.
It's literally touting. There's no difference between a bloke in a long leather jacket selling them outside the Tesla garage for 500 quid. It's the exact same thing. So
this is another thing for me. Like, it feels like there's been a culture change at the club the past couple of years with all of this. Like I said before, we used to have a fairly relaxed ticketing policy, which was accepting of people's individual needs and circumstances. But with this now, they're cracking down on what they say is touting. They're cracking down on normal blues sharing at face value or less to each other. We've seen reports of people getting emails from the club because saying you were sharing your ticket on social media to a fellow blue for face value or less.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, they brought in a new ticket compliance officer, which I can completely understand it if they were dedicating all their time to working out all of these many instances of selling to, like, say, third-party ticket touts. What are they doing instead? Going after regular blues, getting them banned from the stadium.
Yeah.
You can't help but feel at the moment that you're not wanted, whether you're a season ticket holder, a local, or just a blue trying to give your ticket to another fellow blue, no matter where they're from. It's just the culture is so bad at the moment with the club, and that's where these protests have come from. Nobody wants to be protesting the same way I don't want to be doing the feed bank stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you do it.
Yeah,
you do it because you feel there's a necessity.
Yeah. So just to reiterate to everyone, it is tomorrow. So what time is it outside the main entrance at Colin Bell? Is it?
I don't think there is going to be. There's going to be
one of those tomorrow. No?
Leafleting around the stands and stuff, just so that people know. But it's kickoff.
And then at kickoff, it's staying back for 6 minutes. And when you do go to your seat after 6 minutes, make as much noise as you did against. It was Leicester, wasn't it? Because that was, you heard the difference. The difference is very, very clear. And is there going to be TV channels been made aware of it and the media outlets, do you know? Or
I think the media are going to see it regardless, aren't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and hear it, hopefully.
Compared to Leicester, it says a lot that Leicester got so much coverage because Leicester wasn't televised in the UK.
No, it
will be.
The TV coverage actually announced what City were doing as well, which was good because I know I liked that it was a foreign stream because they announced it. If that was Sky,
who knows?
They would not have announced it. They probably would have gone, some empty seats here today. Right. So that's that side. Second thing to move on to is the open letter to Mr. Guardiola. Mark, do you want to speak on that firstly?
Yeah, I mean, really, the people behind the campaign and protests thought that it would be worth writing a letter to Pep, an open letter to Pep, to say, would you like to support at least the aims of the protest to try and get more fans, more affordable tickets for fans, and also to keep the generational link? So we got involved in that because I thought it was a fairly light-hearted way of just keeping the issue live. I thought it was quite clever. And don't forget, Pep talks about the fans all the time. He talks about needing us a lot of the time. You know, he's quite right sometimes. He wants a bit more noise when the team need it. He's quite right to say, let's get there in our numbers and get this team over the line for Champions League and all that. And he got asked about why there were unsold tickets at Wembley. And he explained that it's all a matter of economics. So he gets it. And he also is not ashamed to speak about it. So the open letter gave him the opportunity to do the right thing and say the right thing again. And I believe in his press conference today, he did. He said, I'll help. I'm involved in the club top to bottom. Yeah. He was saying, I'd be glad to help in any way I can. So the actual aims of the protest and the aims of the letter are supported by Pep Guardiola. And that's going to be a good thing.
Exactly that. So he did say that in today's press conference, did he?
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. Have we? So I guess that confirms he's seen it then, right?
Do you know what it is? You never know, because I generally think that the club insulate the playing staff and the coaching staff from this stuff as much as possible.
Control freaks, aren't they, Nick? They're control freaks when it comes to stuff like this. So, but because of the letter, he was asked a question by a journalist.
Right.
Yeah, okay. He says a letter, and you've been asked to, and he was very, very forthright. He said, "I'll support in any way I can," which I thought was brilliant. The letter worked.
But like, this is it again with you said before about communication with the club. And this is something Lucas can maybe like confirm. But a couple of years ago, when we did the 2023 Community Shield boycott because of the FA's ridiculous kickoff time, we won both cups, and it was going to be the latest one ever done. I think 1894 got in touch with the club weeks and weeks ahead of the boycott, to say, can you please let Pep and the playing staff know that this is nothing to do with them, and they said, yeah, we're going to do that. And then we all saw that game against Arsenal where we got beat on penalties, didn't we? Diaz was like shouting to the stands, what's going on? Because obviously there was barely any fans from Manchester had come down.
Yeah. I
mean, apparently there was even a kick-off in Luton Airport with Cole Palmer was like, why did nobody celebrate my goal?
Really?
That's what we've heard. So I don't know if Lucas can confirm that, because I don't want to be spouting rubbish. But
yeah, I mean, we obviously hear a few bits, and we can always ask for messages to be passed on and things internally through the club when and where we can. And I mean, the message to Pep this recently, this one that we've just sent, the letter, there's a couple of angles to it, and obviously we know that Pep is an ally to the fans. We have a great relationship with Pep. We always have done. 1894 organised a banner earlier in the season asking him to stay in Catalan with the Catalan flags, and we heard through some people at the club that it was really well received by Pep, and he was really grateful for that. Sometimes there's a call to go more public with the dialogue, because it not only do we get the message across, we also create an environment where people can talk about it, and it normalizes the conversation more. And we've seen today that Pep got asked about this letter in a press conference, and so sometimes fans might say, I know one of the main criticisms of the letter was, don't distract the team, don't give them any more pressure than they need, and as if a Premier League manager can't handle a bit of pressure from a letter. But one of the main reasons behind it is we need these subjects in the spotlight. We need people talking about them, because the perfect thing for somebody at the club who wants all these protests and the conversation to die down is just for things to go quiet, just to leave things, let the dust settle, and hopefully fans will just stop talking about it. What we want to do as ourselves and some of the other groups is, we know how angry fans are. We're talking to fans all the time. We're surveying them all the time. So we're just trying to ensure that these messages are constantly out there and that the conversation continues, because we don't want it to go away. We want to get these problems sorted so that we can rebuild this relationship with the club and go forward as it should be, with the fans fully on side behind the club.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Is it worth just quickly touching on the FA Cup at the weekend? Just ask you guys' opinion. I think someone mentioned this in the comments as well. FA Cup semi-final at the weekend. Now, my personal view on it, it being on a Sunday, poor. Crystal Palace, London-based, Aston Villa, closer to London than Nottingham or Manchester. It didn't make sense. Secondly, but it didn't make any sense. 4:30 kickoff as well. Yes, there is the fact that it was our 30th time in the last 15 years, 20th time in the last 10. I've been vocal about this. For any Southern fans, for any City fans that live down south, we one of the chips on our shoulder is when we get called plastics, right? And it's one that I used to explain why I support City. I don't anymore, because I'm like, do you know what? If you want to call me a Chelsea fan, no problem, right?
Yeah.
City fans know who I support, and I don't really care what you think. But it is a chip on our shoulder. But what frustrated me a little bit is that the weekends, for us fans that do happen to live a bit closer to Wembley than the lot that live up in Manchester, and that, I know a train is 100, 150 quid because I do it a lot of weekends. That was our time to step up. And you know what? Say, we've got this one. We're not going to make our club be a laughing stock. We'll fill out the stadium. But for whatever reason, that didn't happen for any. Now, do you think that maybe the fact that Manchester City, and, as far as the club see us, we're a colossus now? Do you think the fact that we didn't fill out Wembley maybe might have made the club think, hold on a minute, we do need to look at this?
I think that's a really good point. I think people have maybe overestimated just how many supporters, like especially dedicated supporters, that are going to go week in, week out, that we've built across the country, across the continent, across the world. Like, because you'd argue if that was a Liverpool or a United, they'd have filled.
They'd travel.
Easy. Well, yeah, and they'd have filled in a heartbeat because there's bloody millions of them, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? We still have this core support, and there's been people from London or wherever else in the country who've supported us since the 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
The core support is still based in the Northwest. It's just a fact.
City's always City. Who cares about who's got more than us? We've got more than Bolton Wanderers possibly, and Bolton Wanderers got more than Rochdale. Where the bloody hell do you end with that one?
Yeah.
Who cares about the numbers bit? Unless you're United and Liverpool, then you care about the numbers.
But they didn't. But they never used to. They never used to.
The point is, with us, it's the same sad fuckers going every single week. Basically, we're a kind of group of like hardy people who watch them whether they win, lose, or draw. And then we've attracted this new gang, which is fantastic, of people who are relatively new to coming to the club who want to go to games. But if you go to away games, if you go to Wembley semi-finals and all those kind of games, there's a hardcore of people who go every single time. And going to Wembley is a hard thing to do. You've got to really want to go. My mate, he's gone with his daughter to the Etihad this season for the first time. She's only a young'un. And when we were in the semi-final, because she's now keen, she wanted to go. So he ends up paying 80 quid for a child's ticket. 80 quid for a child's ticket so she can see, and she's not with people who are a bit too raucous because it'd be a bit too much for her. So if she had been to Wembley 20 times in the last 10 years, I don't think she'd be clamouring to go, and he'd be going, 80 quid's all right. So there comes a breaking point for most people, and you end up back to the core, the hardcore. And don't forget, how many tickets did we actually sell? Never mind how many we didn't. Yeah. We take 30,000 or something.
Just under
30,000. Yeah. 30,000 Man City fans went to Wembley again. When we might well, you never expect to win, but when you might well be going again for the final a couple of weeks later.
Well, do you know, and this is the thing that obviously, so I do shows with rival fans. So kind of course, when they're saying to me about, you can't sell out Wembley, as a Forest fan was saying to me, you can't sell out Wembley. Well, look, this was your second time at Wembley in the last 20 years, right? I can tell you of the last 30 times, we've probably sold it out, 28 times of the 30? I know for damn sure the first couple of times we're there, we're selling out and some, right? Yeah. So, and we also know that, our average attendance in the third tier of English football was the same as Nottingham Forest's average attendance in the Premier League. So again, that's irrelevant to me. It's more because that's rivals. They're going to find any way to shit on us. But more so from the club's point of view, do the club look at that turnout at Wembley and think, right, do you know what? We do need we do need the
I
loyal local.
wish they were that smart. I really do,
Yeah.
but they're not. They won't. They've been given an agenda, probably Soriano, but whoever, I don't care who does it. So people further down, exactly as the guys have said, basically, we've got to increase match day revenue, right? So they're focused on increasing match day revenue. That's why they're like attacking the numbers of season tickets we've got. That's why they're putting prices far too high. They're really not smart enough to start working things out the way you are. You'll be much smarter than them, believe me.
Well, I've been made redundant. Maybe I'll look for a job. There we go. Right, so let's just go over it one more time. So the open letter, touchwood, it looks like even if Pep hadn't seen it, the fact that a journalist has mentioned it today.
Exactly.
Pep's probably the type that when he left would say to someone, by the way, can someone get hold of this open letter? Want to have a quick look at it? Hopefully. But the main thing is, again, just to reiterate one more time, for anyone that wants to get involved, Lucas, what are we doing tomorrow?
So the main way you can get involved is go to the game as normal, get into the stadium when you normally do. But as the game kicks off, don't head to your seat straight away. Wait until after the sixth minute, and make your way into the seats from there. Once you're in the stadium, do what you always do: make a racket, be noisy, be loud. Let the club see what the difference is between a full rocking stadium and a half empty stadium.
Share it on social media. If you're part of it, let us know. I don't know if you saw some of the videos from the Leicester protest. Like, it was brilliant. It was, the protests are normally a bit like grim and a bit of a depressing there, but this was brilliant. It felt like an away concourse, and
and the goal helped it. The fact that there was a goal before you lot had come out as well kind of helped get more on social media. So
massively, it'll be bigger. It'll be bigger tomorrow. It'll be bigger than Leicester. I genuinely believe that it'll be bigger. It'll be on British telly, which the club don't. No one wants. And do you know what? It's brilliant to know that was what 8, 9, maybe 10,000 people did against Leicester. To know that many City fans are listening to what we're saying. It's not even what we're saying. We're just boosting what City fans are saying. We are all fans ourselves. Do you know what I mean? So it's no, I'm looking forward to it, and it's great. It's a good time to be a City fan in that regard. It's nice to know we're not taking it lying down like other clubs have.
The club need to realise that if there's something that's an injustice and there's something that's wrong, do not underestimate a Man City fan or a Mancunian, because they will take action. They will not just take it lying down.
Yeah, I think that is the key for me. Even from, and do you know what? Let's go back to the first one, the 9-minute one against Leicester.
Yeah.
All right, we didn't get all the outcomes we wanted from it. However, we did get a ticket freeze from it. So no one can say, it didn't do anything. It literally did do something.
It did. It was the first ticket. You can argue because the last time we had a season ticket freeze was in COVID. So it really counted it. Do you know what I mean? You can argue this is the first ticket freeze in a decade. Absolutely amazing, massive win. So more City fans will have gone, that one. I want to be part of this one.
I think it's also important to shout out as well that the day after that Leicester game, that City Matters had a meeting with the club where they proposed a price rise. Unfortunately, the team in City Matters pulled through and really held them to account, and and got their point across. And then eventually, in a follow-up meeting, they announced the freeze. However, I firmly believe that had there not been that protest in the Leicester game, it would have been so much easier for the club to just say, all right, well, but we're going to crack on anyway.
That's what you said about the owners. Like, do you think it's gone back to the owners? From what we heard, the change in tone in that meeting the day after Leicester, where they offered a 2.8% price increase, which is just so tone deaf. It's quite funny. Apparently, the change in tone from that meeting to the one the week after the weekend, where they said, all right, well, there'll be a price freeze, was chalk and cheese. I can't help but get the feeling that trickled over to Abu Dhabi over the weekend. They saw the pictures. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, even if you look at the channel, I can't remember exactly what channel it was that I watched it on, but it was a channel from the Far or Middle East, right?
Right.
So it probably was seen in Abu Dhabi. I think you made a good point as well there, and this is where I think we need to encourage people to get involved in the 6 minutes. is the fact that it is on television in the UK. So let's make it even bigger so that it has even more impact this time. Listen, really appreciate all the work you guys do at the food bank at 1894, and of course, Mark, yourself with your Facebook group with nearly 1,000 people in it. So anything else you guys need to? In fact, by the way, people, make sure you go and follow We Are 1894 on all socials as well, so you can keep up to date with all the great work they're doing. With all the tifos you're doing, because we saw a really shit tifo on Wednesday, didn't we? So it kind of tells us just how good a job you guys are doing. But yeah, anything else or anything you want to shout out, guys?
All I would say is, obviously, with 1894, we've well past our target, but we've been raising money to a Kevin De Bruyne themed display for the FA Cup final, which the last time I looked, I think it was nearly £12,000 that people had donated. So just a massive shout out to anyone who's listening who donated to that. We really appreciate it. We're working with City on Tour, who designed the "I'll Follow You Everywhere" banner against us.
Right, okay,
amazing. And we'll try and do justice to the incredible amount of money that City fans have put towards it. So yeah, thank you everyone who donated towards that.
Class. The only thing I'd say is just that we're doing all this, but it was the thousands of blues against Leicester that made the difference. This is for everyone. The power is not with the couple of people you see on this call or the rest of us in the groups. It's you as fans. Go talk to your mates you watch the game with, whether it's at home or in the stadium, your friends, your family. You know, if you're educated, if you know what's going on, you're stronger and you can push back on things like this. So I hope we don't have to push back on more things. I'd like to some policies to get reversed, but honestly, we're stronger together. We all need to just keep that in mind.
Brilliant. Anything from yourself, Mark?
No, I'm just want to reiterate what the guys have said. And as I said before, don't underestimate a Mancunian or a Man City fan. When he sees something wrong, he'll come out and he'll fight for it. I mean, nobody wants to do this kind of stuff, you know. And I sometimes I hear people say to me, because I'm not in 1894, people say to me, oh, 1894, all they do is complain. No, they don't. They do KDB banners. They do all sorts of things. All of us want to support the team. All of us love a lot of what the owners have done, and we appreciate it. None of us are anti-City whatsoever. We're more pro-City than anybody. So much so that we spend our time doing this kind of stuff. So, you know, support the ideas that are coming out from all these different people organising protests, and basically fight for the rights of you and your children, your children's children.
Spot on. Right, really appreciate you all coming. Now we're going to go and don't know about you lot, but I'm hoping that a certain team are going to get battered. I'm going to go and watch that. We will be back tomorrow. Everyone that's watching this, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Myself and LB to talk about the Wolves game, any latest transfer news. But everyone, enjoy your evening, and until tomorrow, we're out.
Thanks for having us on.